Welcome to Investories, a podcast about real stories, real estate, and taking real action. Join hosts John Hooper and Kyle Robertson as they talk investing, mindset, and taking that first step. We all have a story. What's yours? The Investories Podcast.
No booyah. Hi, I'm John
Hooper.
On.
What a letdown. You got to do the booyah. You've started a trend here, John.
Is that our thing now?
It is your thing. Yeah.
There was a booyah by saying no booyah. Very meta. But
right,
anyway, booyah. Welcome to Investories Podcast. I'm John Hooper. And with me, my co-host, Kyle
Robertson. Did you forget my last name?
No, I just thought I'd mix it up. And sometimes I say your name, sometimes I don't.
Oh, gotcha. Okay. Yeah. Hey, guys.
So back to reality, Kyle, with a week back from vacation. How's it going?
Dude, I want to go back. I don't like this whole reality thing. Yeah, it sucks. Yeah. No, it's good. Things are great. I haven't, you leave for 2 weeks and you don't realize, well, you do realize, but you just kind of tend to ignore what you're going to come home to after you're going on vacation for a while because you want to go on vacation, right? But then you come back and it's, gosh, the reality just slaps you in the face. So I've been going nonstop. It's just like that whole chicken with the head cut off scenario. So, but other than that, that's kind of business as usual. So things are good. How about you?
Good. Yeah, all good. We had some guests in, actually, funnily enough, while we were recording, all the text messages were flying in of check-ins and stuff like that. So it's cool. We've got some revenue coming in, keep the lights on, all that good stuff. Oh,
excellent. Very, very nice.
So today we've got Sheena and Chris. I connected with them on Instagram. I know very millennial of me, or Gen Z maybe, but super great couple, really interesting, invest together. And they've really grown their portfolio and they're really set on their goals. They're driven by their goals, and there's some great tips around goal setting and leveraging kind of your strengths in a couple and all that good stuff.
Yeah, and they started, I wouldn't say late. I guess the fire was kind of lit in Sheena first, and then after a few years, Chris kind of came around too. But they started back in 2016, at least considering the idea of real estate investing. And they did what a lot of people do, which is start small and gradually move up, and started with residential stuff. And they actually pivoted fairly recently into the commercial world. And now when I say commercial, me being the dumb that I am, I thought they were talking about residential commercial, and they were actually talking about commercial office spaces, retail. I don't know that they're actually into industrial yet, but they did start talking about some of these different types of commercial deals that they're doing. Is really interesting stuff. About the way that they're kind of trying to grow their portfolio, some good types of tenants to put into these commercial buildings. I guess trying to be as recession or economy proof as possible, because that's a big issue when it comes to renting out to businesses. So lots of really good stuff.
Yeah, and without further ado, here's Chris and Sheena. Welcome to Investories, Sheena and Chris. Hello, how are you?
Hey guys, what's up?
Doing well. Thanks for having us.
And you're over in Las Vegas, right?
Yes, Viva Las Vegas.
Via Hawaii.
Via Hawaii, yes.
Okay.
That's correct. Yeah.
And some call it the ninth island. So there's no beaches like Hawaii though. So
it's like, yeah, very much like Hawaii. I've just got back from Hawaii a couple of weeks ago, and
nice.
I love Vegas, but I disagree with you on that. So thanks for being on the show. Really what I wanted to start with is, and one of the things we really talk about on the show is kind of the couples thing and investing together and bringing your partner in. I'd love you to talk through your background in terms of how you kind of got where you are today and what that route was and who was leading who and who had to convince who. That would be a great start, I think.
Yeah, sure. So just like in real estate, I spearheaded everything. So in 2016, I was introduced to the purple book, the purple pill. Everybody knows it. Rich Dad, Poor Dad. And the funny thing is Chris was actually the one that brought it home from one of his colleagues at work. He brought it home, threw it on a table, and I saw it and I read it. And ever since then, I was hooked. I was like, we need to get into real estate. 2016, I literally went to our local public library, and the entire section on real estate, I grabbed every book I could carry. I brought it to the checkout station, and the lady was like, we have a limit of 20 books. And I was like, okay, I had to put back some. And I just went down this rabbit hole of reading and absorbing as much as I could about real estate. Reached out to realtors, started analyzing properties come 2017. I introduced it to Chris and I was like, we got to do this.
But I wasn't ready.
Yeah, he was not ready. And he was like, I get it, because we were looking at long-term rentals. And he was like, who's going to, take those phone calls and go fix the leaking toilets and do all those things? And it was going to be him because it wasn't going to be me. And so, I respected his opinion on it. And I was too afraid to do it on my own. Looking back, hindsight 2020, we always wish we did. I wish I bought way more properties in 2016, looking back to how, well the market has gone. And so I think it was, I kept researching and whatnot. And 2018 came, and that's when.
Yeah. So in 2018, basically, had some friends at work that were investing. They were fixing and flipping here in Las Vegas. And they, I was like, hey, what is that? How are you guys doing that? What got you into it? And they introduced me to this pretty cool podcast called the Bigger Pockets Podcast. And that was the end for me. Education on listening to what other people are doing, ordinary people that are also investing and being super successful with it. And then I finally read that purple book and it opened up my eyes. And then going back to the education, I didn't know there was any such thing called a property manager that could do the toilets and field calls for you, because I assumed that I was going to field all those calls and fix all the toilets and paint all the rooms and whatnot. So it was a matter of opening up my eyes and opening up my mind and catching up to where Sheena was with the education and the willingness to invest in real estate.
So did you guys already, sorry, Sheena, I didn't mean to interrupt you there. Were you guys already investing? Had you already purchased something between 2016 and 2018, or was this mostly just the education piece of it for you guys?
Yeah, it was definitely education, more so on my part. I just was kind of pursuing it, and every few weeks, every few months, trying to introduce him to something new, give him a book, try to talk about it, but he just was like, always no, nope. Always no. And it wasn't until 2018 where he started listening to podcasts. And that's one of the main things I look back on, which was my mistake. I am a reader. I love to hold a book, divulge myself into it, and I like it held in my hand. And he is not a reader. And so I was giving him these books, and I was giving it to him in a form that he just was not like, he's done with work and he's going to come home and he's not going to spend his time reading a book. He loves music. And I don't even know why I didn't think of podcasts. Like, he listens to music. He's always, listening with his AirPods now, at the gym working out. And if I had just given it to him in that form, I think much earlier on, he would have jumped on and been on board. And so that was definitely a learning point on my end. And, speaking to other people, put it in the form that your spouse wants to learn and make it enjoyable for them, and not make it something that would be a hindrance or homework for them, And so that was a turning point in that for him.
That's such a humongous piece of this, and, you look at, things just, like people, the way people go through school, some people are visual, some people are a lot more analytical. And I had the same issue with my wife. She's a lot more visual. I'm a lot more analytical. I'm the reader, and then all of a sudden, again, it's really funny that you said that. I introduced her to the Bigger Pockets podcast as well. And then all of a sudden she's starting to figure this stuff out. So I was more in Sheena's boat, and my wife was more in Chris's boat in the way that we do our learning. And then once we just figured out that correct learning path, the rest was history. And then all of a sudden, and then of course, the proof of concept is really the biggest one. And Chris, you said that is because you were seeing this be done by other people that you knew. I think you said it was coworkers, and you could see the results. It wasn't just about reading about it or hearing about it. You're actually being able to see it from people who's close to you and be able to explain their story. And that is absolutely huge. So tell us a little bit about the beginning of this. You've done all this education, you're ready to pull the trigger. What happened? What was the first one? How did it go?
Yeah. So 2019, we purchased our first long-term rental here locally in Las Vegas. And we went through it, and, getting started, that's exactly what, needs to happen, is taking that action, proof of concept, not only seeing it in others, but now that we went through the process and it wasn't that scary, it wasn't that hard, and we were hooked. I don't even think we had signed the closing documents and we were already looking for the second. Yeah. We were just gung-ho about it, full force. And so we purchased 2 in 2019, and they were both long-term rentals here in Las Vegas. The difficult part about that we were quickly approaching, is that we were running out of capital.
Yeah,
the purchase,
the traditional 25% down, and
Yeah.
next, you know, we want to do more. However, we had to slam on the brakes.
Yeah. So that's when Chris again heard about the Midwest and how our dollar could go further. And instead of buying, you know, $200,000-$300,000 homes here in Las Vegas, we could buy $600,000 properties in the Midwest, and the cash flow was a lot better as well. And so in 2020, we had purchased one turnkey through Memphis Invest, and it was a great experience. But once we hooked up with them, I was like, we could totally do what they're doing and do the burr ourselves. And so then we proceeded to do 5 burrs in Memphis, and acquired 6 more. And then 2020,
2021?
in 2020.
Oh, 2020, yeah.
Yeah, what'd we do? I did the squirrel.
No, that was 2021.
Oh, sorry,
So
2021.
2021, we did the flip because everyone's fixing and flipping. That's a sexy thing to do.
Yeah.
It's on HDTV. Albeit, you know, we were able to do our flip here in Las Vegas. We turned back. So we went from the virtual investing and managing the managers and whatnot, and we came back to Vegas and we're managing this fix and flip ourselves. And we were able to drive to the property, and we're able to see, why is the tile guy not here? And it was just, for one, stressful. There's another job. And then secondly, it really wasn't aligned with our goals at the time, which was to have the passive income and have that, what they call the mailbox money. And it albeit it was a success, however, it didn't align with our goals at the time. So had we not fixed and flipped, we probably could have acquired more hold properties in Midwest had we stuck to our guns at the time.
Yeah, and that was another huge learning point in our journey. Is that was my idea, and I definitely squirreled at that moment. Is everybody's doing flips, let's do it. We're in the perfect market for it, and we made about $40,000 on it, but we probably lost maybe $500,000 in net worth. And I say that because in the previous 12 months, we had purchased 8 properties, that had appreciated very nicely. And if we had stuck to our guns and what we had success in, we would probably have gotten, and I'm assuming at the rate that we were going, at least six to 8 more in 2021, which would have, again, assumptions, appreciated the same way at that time. And so, that really derailed us from all the momentum that we had going in the one strategy, because, we had sidetracked and gone down this new road. And it would have been fine had we continued to pursue, the out-of-state burrs at the same time, but we had stopped it completely because doing a flip is another job. It is not passive at all. Mm-hmm. We were there, and because it was in our local market, in our backyard, we could drive to it. We decided to take on some projects ourselves to save a little bit of money. And so it was very, very active. It was not passive at all. And it, really gave us a great lesson that it wasn't in alignment with our goals. I even tried to keep it at the end. I was like, do the numbers work for us to keep it?
Could we burr this? Yeah, but it didn't work out.
The flip, a burr is, a flip, but keeping it at the end of the day, and the numbers just didn't work. And so, oh man, yeah, we ended up selling that one, and we learned a bunch of lessons that flipping is not right for us right now in our journey. And also to really stay the course, keep going at what you found success in, so that, you continue to be successful.
So I wanted to touch upon something you mentioned, and this is really important for couples and for people investing together, which is the alignment of goals and the fit of that to a strategy. How did you guys initially kind of figure out what you guys wanted out of investing? Like, what was your route to aligning those goals?
Yeah, so our vision is, or our why rather, and it's tied into our vision, is our family. We want to spend time with our family, spend time with each other, and we figured out, how could we buy our time back? And how could we do that is through real estate investing, through that passive income, reverse engineer, if you will. If we want X amount, we need X amount of doors to reach the ultimate sum. And the buy and hold and the burn method is what got us on track to that, that highway to success. And then the fix and flip, we took that wrong exit and we took the scenic route. It was a nice route. However, now we're, like Sheena mentioned, we could have seen the potential where we should have acquired and stuck to our guns at that time. So we just took the wrong exit at the time. We kind of, took the long road again.
Now, did you guys have any kind of a formal goal setting? So obviously, and whenever especially if you're investing with a spouse, you've got a partner. It is a partner, whether it's your spouse or whether it's somebody else. But when we talk about investing with a partner, let's say not your spouse, you got to create a good operating agreement. You got to have things like exit plans, roles, all those types of things. And I know from just the experience of investing with my own wife, at the beginning of it, we had a lot of trouble staying in our own lanes, and so we would sit here and step on each other's feet. We would, my wife would be in charge of collecting taxes and dealing with the lender and dealing with the CPA. And I'm supposed to be the one speaking with realtors and doing more of the operations of the actual purchase. And then all of a sudden I would contact, our CPA to ask questions or ask them to do things, totally step on my wife's toes and get into her lane. And then everything would just start to kind of fall apart. We'd start to bicker at one another and whatnot. So we learned through the school of hard knocks how to try to avoid that. Did you guys experience something similar? And how did you set up your business as a couple and meet the goals, or I guess even set the goals?
Yeah, definitely. We definitely went through that same school you did. They're making a lot of money off of people right now. But yes, so having clear communication and clear roles, like knowing your roles and staying in your lane. And that comes from knowing each other's strengths and weaknesses. Chris is a spreadsheet guy. I am a pen to paper, and I am the analytical one. And so we really looked at what each other's strengths and weaknesses were, and we went with them. We went full force with what each other's strengths were. So, Chris handles he does do the spreadsheets, and he's the organizational one of the two of us. Mm-hmm. And so he handles that side of everything. And because my job is a lot more flexible, I am more so the person that deals with everyone else in our business. So as far as communicating with others, that's usually me on my side. And we definitely had to split the roles and the different jobs that we had to do in the business. And we do not, unless we ask permission first, go into and steer into each other's roles. But definitely.
I was going to add to that too. And you hit it, just like you're in my mind there. We asked, but we had to learn, because there were times where I would try to do stuff that Sheena would do, or vice versa. And it would be like, hey, I just did that.
Yeah.
Why would you do double work? And like you said, school of hard knocks, and we learned the hard way. And then, yes, we would bicker, and there's days that we still do. So I'm sure that's natural, right? But it's working through it and having debriefs and hot washes and just learning from that. And, it's a constant living document, right? And we're just continuing to assess and make those changes. But rewinding back to the goal setting, we like to do a goal setting every year. Unfortunately, this past year, going into 2022, we didn't really have the extravagant one that we did in 2021.
We try to make it a fancy one. And so in 2021, we went all out. We tried to make it, a great, a nice spot where, what our future will look like. So we rented, we stayed on the strip, and we pulled out, all the stops, and we literally set the weekend up for our goal setting, what the next 1 year looks like for us, and 3 years and 5 years. And we literally put it all over the walls. And we really focus on what the goals are, especially for that year coming up ahead, breaking it down by what are the goals that we want to accomplish as a husband and wife, as a family, for our business. And so that we know where we are headed in that year. And we look back to it fairly often, and do a 3-month check-in, a 6-month, and usually quarterly check-ins to make sure that we are still pursuing those goals. And that's right. That's really a great thing that has really helped us throughout the year. These past few years is setting those big goals at the beginning of the year and constantly referring and going back to them.
I really like that. I'm gonna steal that. I think making it an event is really interesting. Yeah. We kind of talk a little bit more, a little bit less focused and more kind of abstract, or more a series of conversations rather than writing things down and making it a focal point. So I think that's a really good tip to help get alignment and get buy-in and get a kind of connected direction, I guess. So in terms of you kind of talked about the different dynamic within your relationship and within how you invest and how you kind of play a part in the team. What is your what do you look for in a deal, or how do you kind of analyze that deal? What's your process?
Ooh, that's a Sheena question.
Yeah, so there's a lot of research that goes into, so right now we are all things commercial. We found that, buying one commercial building will bring us, what 10 houses could come in. And so if we can knock it out, instead of owning 40 properties and just owning 3 to 4 good commercial properties, that's kind of where we're at right now. And we're going full force. But as far as the analysis, a lot of market research, talking to brokers, property managers,
right.
Running the numbers, looking at leases, and then spreadsheet. We put it into a spreadsheet that Chris and I work on together and run those numbers. And we have minimums on what we want as far as cash on cash returns, what the strategy for that particular property is, whether it be a long-term buy and hold or some sort of value add into it. And then we make our offer. Usually commercial, we're learning, takes a long period of time. It's not the quick, rapid pace that residential is. And so that's something new that we're also learning is, to change the pace of things with commercial. They're bigger deals, and so they take more time. And, due diligence as well on that is a lot longer. And hopefully you get that to the closing table. And we were able to with this past one in June.
Yeah.
Yeah.
Awesome. So I got to know, why commercial? Yeah, this is the big fight in real estate investing right now, is single family homes or maybe up to 4 units and smaller versus commercial. So why did commercial appeal to you guys so much?
Yeah, so we were actually turned on to commercial. Chris's brother actually just purchased his first commercial building, and he was talking to us about it for a while. And we had, at the same time, the universe tries to give you hints. We were starting to have trouble with a couple of our long-term rentals and tenants and whatnot. And we kind of just thought about it, and we were like, and we're supposed to own 40 of these to get up to our FI number. And I'm just like, oh my goodness. Yeah. And so we went down commercial. For one, your tenants are businesses, and so they are there to conduct business, and so there's the assumption that they take better care of the property, and they're really your partner, when you're going into business with them and buying the property, because their success is your success. So your tenant is a business, for one. Secondly, the longer leases, less turnover, as opposed to the 6 months or maybe 1 year that you get on the residential side. You're looking at usually a minimum of 3 years, and most leases are 5 years, 10 years on the commercial side. And so you get a tenant in there, and to not have to think about those things for 5 years is just so much more in alignment with our goals.
Can I interrupt you just? Sorry, Sheena, can I interrupt you just for a second and just get some clarifying or ask a clarifying question? When we talk about commercial, you're talking about commercial? You're talking offices,
yes.
And business type.
Yes.
We're not talking residential commercial, which is 5 units and larger. We're talking actual like strip malls and things of that nature. Okay, excellent. I didn't. I'm sorry, my misunderstanding.
Yeah, and I should have started with that, because whenever someone hears, especially regular residential investors, they hear commercial, they automatically think
multifamily.
Multifamily. Multifamily is just one type of commercial property type, right? There's also your office, there's your retail, and then industrial, and then there's a slew more of like very small. So there's land, redevelopment, RV parks, hospitals, there's so much more, but those are the main ones. And so when we're talking commercial, we're not talking multifamily. And what we were looking at was more so office and retail type commercial buildings.
Yep.
Yeah.
Super interesting. And this is a space I've not gotten into before. So, I'm in multifamily. And so learning about these types of things are awesome. This is something that, are we talking triple N leases? Like, what kind of things is it that you're looking for? If we get a little bit more specific into the commercial world, what type of metrics, I guess, are you looking for? I know you talked about cash on cash return. Like, what types of cash on cash return are you expecting out of these sorts of things? And are you doing triple N leases, or is this more of a, are you taking care of those things that the triple N leases would typically do?
Yeah, so we've looked at and analyzed a few triple net leases, and just some they haven't worked right now. So we're still on the lookout, and we'd like to get our hands on a triple net lease. But as far as right now, we're looking at cash and cash returns that would, like Sheena mentioned, it would in one fell swoop get a few houses out of the way versus, having 10 houses, you could get one commercial property. And then the quality of tenants in this space, in our experience, is they seem to be of they want to stay longer. The pride of ownership is there compared to what we've been experiencing on the single family side. So that's where we've been analyzing on that. So anything you want to add on that?
Yeah, triple net lease. Those are the new sexy words in real estate, right? Like everybody wants in on that. Yeah. Literally mailbox money. You put a tenant in and you pay nothing. And so it is a lot harder to get and find good triple net leases. And if you do, they're definitely, your cap rates are a lot more depressed, right? Yes. So they're going to be lower. And this is really, I think, for people who have just money to place and to sit, what I've seen. And Chris and I, where we are at in our investing journey, is we're looking more so value add properties, and that really isn't in alignment with what a triple net lease provides for you. And so, it is very good for someone at a certain point in their career. And for us, we're still trying to do the value add. And so we're finding it more difficult to find triple net leases that still have that value add play in those types of properties.
Which usually they don't. But yeah. I'm sure if we look hard enough, we could find a triple net lease or, even a double net lease that we could add value to. But most of the time they're already there. They're already performing, which is why, they're at that category.
Right. Yeah.
So I had a question around that move from single family and from the burrs and the flips. What was the biggest kind of learning curve? What was the biggest lesson you learned from moving from that to the commercial space?
Oh, patience. Patience is key. We really have to learn how to work with our team and work with our brokers and the lenders and really see what it is that they need and work through that progress. There's a lot of similarities in single family and commercial.
Same terms.
However, there's a lot of differences. With the lease commission is one that we had to learn the hard way. The school of hard knocks, again, going back to that, is usually when you put a tenant in and your realtor finds a tenant for the single family side, it's what, $250, $500 is what we've seen. Maybe one month's rent. But we learn in the commercial spaces for the life of the lease, 5-year lease at $300,000, and it's 6% of that, and you pay that up front. We're like, whoa.
So it's very similar. Lease commissions on a commercial property are very similar to like the sale of a property. So if you think of it like they're selling the lease to you, it's the same way. So it's 6% of the lease amount for the totality of the lease. So that was a big one, because when we, part of our value add for the property we purchased was to get one space leased up. And so we got it leased up, and, we never really thought about how much we were going to pay for it, because usually it's 1 month's rent, when you pay, and it was not. We were expecting maybe a few thousand. It was almost $30,000. And so that was, a big learning miss. And so there are, like Chris said, the terms are similar, but the way that they do things on the commercial side is very different. I would say that also the biggest thing that we learned, and the learning curve on it, is that everything is negotiable, which can be a good and bad thing. Even on the lending side, like you can negotiate your rates. I've never heard of that on the residential side, albeit you can pay, points to get your interest rate down. But I'm literally talking to your lender and negotiating that interest rate for certain things. And things are very gray in the commercial world. Everything is negotiable. All you have to do is ask. And I learned that through reading a lot of books.
Yeah, absolutely. The commercial world it's super interesting. And for the listeners, with commercial loans, you get so many different kinds of commercial loans, but you get things like non-recourse versus recourse financing. And we're not talking about things that you typically get on a loan, for a traditional conventional loan for 4 units and smaller. We're talking about commercial banks, and a lot of these commercial banks will keep these loans in-house. So that means that they're not going to be selling these loans on a secondary market, but you can, like Sheena was saying, you can negotiate things like your rate. You can also negotiate things, because a lot of fixed rate financing commercial loans are going to be for about 5 years, especially if you don't have any of the street credit, you haven't been doing this for a while. your first loan's probably going to be a 5-year fixed rate. And you can actually negotiate what happens at the end of 5 years. Okay, well, I only want a 10% increase because, you think about today's environment for interest rates, we've doubled in the last 3 or 4 months. Well, if you had negotiated back in January for a commercial rate that at the end of your term, if you get an option to refinance that thing with only a 10% increase in your current rate, then you'd be way ahead. So for those of you who have not got into commercial rates yet, make sure that you're investigating what it is they're willing to negotiate. You can also negotiate things like your amortization, which is a huge piece because that can really increase your cash flow if you can stretch that loan out over a longer period of time, not for a fixed rate, like not the term, because you still have to pay it off in 5 years or refinance or sell it. But it will make your payment less if you amortize it out over a longer period of time. So that was a really good piece of advice that you guys just gave. So anybody looking to get into commercial, make sure that you're investigating what it is that you can negotiate with these commercial loans, because it's all about the relationships, right? And so, and build more than one. Do you guys actually use just one commercial lender, or you guys kind of shopped around a little bit and made those relationships?
Yeah. So what I did was I had gotten referrals from investors that were already in that space. And there were about 10 lenders that were given to me. And I blasted out an email, presented our property to them, and got certain feedback. And then we were introduced to a mortgage broker. And because we had it was kind of a difficult situation for us because we were losing one tenant in the middle of closing. And so we ended up actually going with a broker, and, why not leverage his expertise and his relationships, right?
His network.
Yeah. His network, because he has way more than 10, and he will know, what certain banks or credit unions are looking for, whether or not they're more interested in a medical office building, which is what we had purchased, as opposed to us, where we were just, putting it out there to everyone that we had gotten referrals on, but we don't know what they are looking for, and he does. And so we ended up going with a mortgage broker after reaching out to several lenders, and leveraged his network and his relationships to find us the best fit for our loan.
That's awesome. And speaking to that kind of the idea of building out your team, what's your approach to that? How do you engage people? How do you network? Is it just asking for referrals? Do you use LinkedIn? Is there a clever way of networking with people?
A lot of it was referrals. That a lot of our investor friends who were already in the market, and they just gave us resources, and we reached out and we see who we really clicked with, and we really could work with them, and we see their track record and how they performed, and just getting feedback from our little network and our little mastermind. And they said this person has this strength, however, here's what they may fall back on, and then we went down the gamut and see which one worked best for us. And then it really was just leveraging the network that we had there.
Yes.
Awesome. So let's talk a little bit more specifically about your guys' portfolio and kind of what kind of properties that you're looking for. So are we looking specifically at industrial? Or are you looking for strip malls? Like, what do you guys own, and what are you trying to expand into?
So on the residential side, all of our 8 properties are all long-term traditional buy and hold rentals. In commercial, that's the same overall goal that we are doing. We are trying to just buy value add and hold them for the long term, because that passive income is really what we're after. And we are strictly focused on retail and office, and under office, like a medical office type, because, COVID happened and sent a lot of traditional office types, working from home, working remotely. And we really want something that's recession proof, COVID proof, or, whatever, virus proof at this point. And so really medical office and retail is what we're looking for.
Gotcha. And are these types of properties, are you purchasing already occupied, like medical offices, I guess, to use that example? Are you purchasing these types of things, and what kind of value adds can you do for like a medical office? Are you actually just going in and doing the typical things, which would be flooring and paint and all that type of stuff, and then they move all of their equipment in and sign a lease? How does that look?
Awesome. Yeah. So coming from the single family residence space, the mindset of value adds is, hey, new floors, new paint, new bathroom, new kitchens. And yeah, that could be the same for commercial as well. However, in the commercial space, a value add could just be looking at the leases and just restructuring that or getting a tenant in a vacant space. And that could be your value add in and of itself.
Yeah. There are so many more opportunities to add value on the commercial side. So not only like the physical improvement of the property, but just, finding any way to decrease your expenses and increase the income. And that's actually what we're doing right now, is the stabilization of the property. So reaching out to our vendors, all of the vendors that were already servicing the property, seeing if we couldn't renegotiate their contracts, or reaching out to new vendors and getting better pricing, on those things. That was one way that we, are increasing our NOI at the end of the day. And also, one of our leases are not currently performing to what it states it is. And leases can be super, super long. And really reading and understanding what the tenant is supposed to be paying. And so this lease reads that everything should be billed back to this tenant, and the tenant has never paid anything. And so that's another value add right there, is getting them to pay and operate at what their lease states. And so there's so many different ways that you can add value, to your current property based on the leases, based on the vendors, and things like that. So a lot more opportunity.
That's awesome, and this is absolute gold. So I really appreciate the input and the info. One question I do have coming from that idea that this in-depth kind of understanding is really interesting, is what is your educational journey? I know this is slightly back to front, but how have you got to this point of kind of knowing how this stuff works? Has it just been trial and error? Have you invested in courses and masterminds? What does that look like?
Yeah, so it is a lot of trial and error and reading books and putting the proof to concept in our experience. But also, yes, we've invested in masterminds that helped introduce us into this space. And that was, you're talking about true gold. That really is true gold in leveraging the team and the network there and just trusting the process. It sounds cliche, but you trust the process of people that went ahead of you and that have been successful. And that really has brought the light to us. And, Sheena's a real go-getter. And, with the books from the beginning, right, with real estate investing in general, she did the same thing with commercial real estate. But instead of going to the library, it's Amazon. Something's in your cart, something's getting delivered, and it's a commercial book. And it's a hand-me-down. And I'm thankful for it because it helps me to understand and get to where she's at. And it just makes us stronger as a couple investing in real estate.
I really like that. And I think that whole concept is no one's going to do it for you, right? You have to go and research and really want it and really want to absorb it. One of the things I've found challenging has been like evaluating what is something worth investing in, and is it going to give me a return for myself, and kind of trying to figure out what the kind of hokey courses that people are just selling and hoping that you'll just buy and not get value out of it. How did you kind of determine which route to go down or who to go into with a mastermind, those kind of things?
I think this one also comes down to referrals again. We highly value, people that we trust and their opinions and their experiences. And nothing speaks more than someone who is doing what you want to do already. And so it was easy for us to join. It's actually the W&N commercial mastermind. It was easy for us to join this space because what they say they're doing, they're actually doing. They're in the space, they're successful, they bought commercial properties. And so really getting the referrals and recommendations for masterminds. And at the end of 100 different masterminds, pay for all these courses. But at the end of the day, you have to take action. You have to put in the work. Just because you pay $100,000 for a course, because I have heard of some that are this expensive, it doesn't guarantee success. You still have to go out there and put in the work yourself. And so, yes, it's great to join masterminds and do these things, and finding the right one that is in alignment with what you're already doing and finding the right people and network as well. But you, at the end of the day, have to put that knowledge into action.
And the best analogy we can go is working out. I want him with the best weights and protein shakes after, but if I don't go or take action myself, nothing's going to happen. And it's the same with real estate investing. We could join, quote unquote, the best mastermind out there with the best information to happen. It really boils down to us. And I really like that, the extreme ownership that Sheena mentioned. And, that really just boils down to the action, daily action. And even when we don't feel like doing it, we have to do it, and there's some skin in the game, or a lot of skin in the game, depending on which mastermind and how much we paid for it.
Yeah. And really what it boils down to is if you get this idea, you get these goals set, you can do all the education you want. And if you don't actually take that extreme action, then it's pointless. You wasted so much of your time where you could be doing something else. And honestly, it's, the most successful people in the world are the ones that make a decision, set goals, build the road to get there, or even reverse engineer that road. You find the goal and you build the road to get there last. And then you accomplish it. But if you never actually take those risks because of fear or whatever, because of failure, there's no reason for you even to waste your time. And that's huge. So for you guys, what's next? We talk about goals pretty much this entire time. So what are your goals? What are you looking for? What does the ultimate Sheena and Chris business look like when you're, ready to retire? So what are you trying to get to?
And what's next for us is really to replace our income. And that's our goal. Is to spend time with family and invest more and get more properties on the commercial side. So right now we're looking for 2 to 3 more commercial properties similar to what we just purchased. That way we could get to that work optional status. And Sheena, you want to share something about work optional?
Yeah. So with this last commercial building, it pretty much bought me out of my job. And, it's work optional for me right now going forward. I do like my job, so I am going to keep working. But the next step is purchasing 2 to 3 more commercial office or retail buildings to replace Chris's income.
Amazing. That's such a great why. And I share that objective to become work optional. And Carl's already there, right? So he's already a bum.
Nice.
Already a bum. I tell everybody I'm unemployed. That's the most fun part. It's really funny when you bring that up. Somebody says, "Oh, what do you do?" Because everybody wants to make small talk, right? So you meet somebody new and they say, "Hey, so what is it that you do for a living?" And I always just say, "Oh, I'm unemployed." Just to see their reaction, just because it's. And then, sometimes I get the compassionate answers, which is like, "Oh yeah, it's really hard out there right now," And sometimes I get the people that look at me like, "Wow, you're a bum, aren't you?" It's my own little personal humor, I guess, and it's the joke's for me. So I don't know, it's kind of funny.
So Sheena, Sheena, Chris, how can people get in touch with you?
Yeah, so you can reach us on Instagram, Sheena and Chris Invest. Sheena SHEENA and spelled out ANDCHRIS Invest, and you can find us there on Instagram. And we're working on other means to bring us both there. So maybe a YouTube channel in the future. We don't know yet, or our very own podcast. So
I like that. I think you do really well at a podcast. I think a lot of people would be interested in that. So we'll put a link to your Instagram in the show notes for sure.
Awesome. Thank you.
Thanks for being here, guys.
Yeah, thank you so much.
The opportunity.
Yeah.
No problem. And we'll be back next week.
Thank you for listening to the Investories podcast. We all have a story. What's yours? The Investories podcast.